exit there.
Yeah,
Right.
and that you did approve both of those, but if there is any additional comments he'd like to make or questions you had, thought it'd be appropriate since he had some complications with travel today.
Yeah, we had a brief description from Mr. Milton having to do with what the nature of the enterprise was, appeared to be, and we'd welcome anything you could elaborate
Sure.
on that.
Testing. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for approving it. And I apologize for not being here earlier. I left at 5 o'clock thinking it was reasonable, but a 6-hour drive is, I don't think, very normal. The canyon was pretty bad this morning. Obviously, I'm here because this is your...
Mr. Pearson, before you start, would you just tell us your name just for the record?
My name is Dean Pearson.
Thank you.
I'm a partner with ARJ on the development of Rose Creek. And I'm here because this is your town, your county, and we're an outsider group, although my partner is the president and CEO of Road and Highway Builders. And I say that because you don't really know me or really know Rich Bunting, and so it really gives you an opportunity to ask me who I am, what have I done, and why do I think I'll be responsible in your county to do a good job. And so if you have any questions about my history of who I am, where I came from, I'm pretty transparent.
Well, I personally, I'll just say I took it at face value, the project, and there were no red flags raised for me, and so personally, I wasn't looking for a confirmation in terms of character on anybody. We trust that you are who you are and what you're planning on doing. I personally speak for myself. I think it's a project that's needed in this community. I'm excited that it's you kind of took that spin to it, a destination type in RV park, but and God knows we're going to need a lot of space for that type of activity. Just as we fill the gap for our housing shortages and whatnot in our communities, to be honest with you. So,
Well, when you look at the land is a special piece of property. If you haven't been out there, there's undulations in the topography out there. And as Rose Creek, it's an old stream bed. And so what we'll be doing is we'll take the higher portion of the property and rather than flat grade it, which a lot of developers do, we work with the topography so that the road curves through the area. And it's easy to flat grade anything and make it look like a parking lot, but that's not our intent. Our intent is to leave lots of the knolls that are there and meander the roads through there. My partner and I, we always kid each other because he builds straight highways and I build curvy roads. And that's really what makes us strong. Our plan is to complement both activities, long-term and short-term. The long-term would be that need for the miners and people coming here to work. The short-term is the dailies and the weeklies that are on their way through town to go someplace. But they don't need to just stop and drive into a large parking lot. What we plan on doing is adding a couple of lakes. We have a whole amenity package. There's snow play with tubing. There's sledding. There's an amphitheater that we'd like to put in. Elko doesn't have the control on cowboy poetry, so what the heck? Why not an amphitheater with the stage down below? We'd love to work with the town and determine what the town would like to see, and then we will program into our community those sort of things that we can be proud of and you can be proud of as a community. That's our goal.
Sure. Well, thank you for choosing Humboldt County and Winnemucca area. You'll find this board is very business friendly, and any way we can help you in the future, please reach out to this board or the county manager.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions in regards to the sewer. for this deal, will you be putting in sewer ponds, or how are you going to be dealing with that?
It'll be an engineered system with sewer ponds, correct.
Ponds? And how about water? Have you
We're
secured
drilling a
water?
well up in the upper northeast section of the property.
And you've secured those water rights?
We have not secured the water rights, and if anybody knows of any that are for sale, we're in the market to buy water rights at this time. We have a couple of sources we can go to, but it's just a little bit too expensive.
So that'll be a water system and a sewer system there.
That's correct. We will do it. Everything we do is out of pocket. We use no debt.
And how many spaces do you envision this having?
Right now, the program, the pro forma program is 350 units. It could go as high as 5. I don't want to go much higher than that. You can do an RV park and get about 10 in there, but they're pretty well squeezed in, and I don't want to pigeonhole it. I really want the land in between the spaces. So these will be unique and different than what you have here currently. So I'm going to try to keep it right around 350, 400.
Okay.
And when I say 350, 400, right now the pro forma models, half of that being long-term and the other half being short-term. As we move forward, we'll probably start with 100 to 150 spaces out of the get-go, and then determine based on that market acceptance where we go with the next phase. Do we do more short-term? Do we do more long-term? We'll also be really careful on the amenity package to make sure it suits and programs to the needs of the people that are living there.
And how many acres will this be on?
We have 272 acres. Okay. That's a lot of acreage.
Yeah, one of our biggest issues out in that area is water and sewer right now. You know, we've got some nitrate issues going on, and that's affecting our water quality. So any new developments, it certainly will be, you know, good to have a system in place rather than septic
Yes.
tanks and wells.
I've talked to Eli I've been in the state from 1972, and so pretty familiar with water and water history and law. And when I spoke to Eli, I said, you know, there are certain things that we're doing, and I don't want to do individuals, so I would like to do an engineered system. He was very supportive of that because he knows when we do an engineered system, what we take out of the ground, we'd like to think of putting back into the ground something that's a little bit better than what we took out. Okay, and there are other things we have planned to do here in the city, excuse me, in the county, and you'll probably see my face again.
So are we, you're in the preliminary engineering side of it right now then, or you have final plans in place?
No, I have a preliminary land plan. I have a road layout. It actually came to me last night, but this is something I've been working on and studying for about 7 months.
Okay.
That doesn't sound very long, does it?
Do you have any other projects that you've already done in Nevada?
Are you familiar with Stonegate in Reno?
What?
Stonegate.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the founder of Stonegate. I acquired that land about 8 years ago, 1,700 acres. We now have it entitled for 5,000 homes. My partners are running it. I'm in the process with my current partner. We've just assembled around 4,000 more acres in Reno. I can't really talk too much about it because I'm still in the acquisition stage. Other things, I did Rosewood Lakes years ago. That was a partnership with Michael Germany and Taylor Woodrow Homes. I was the manager of Taylor Woodrow Homes. Rosewood Lakes, around 1,500 units. We built a golf course, punched through Miraloma. So, I mean, I apologize. I don't like to boast, but I could go on and on.
No,
I have a question, Mr. Chair. This is Commissioner Hill. So on an engineered septic system, that water will be treated
Yes.
versus,
It can be. What you do when you build an engineered system, you set up layers of infiltration so that as it goes down, the organics eat up the bad stuff.
so it would be engineered where it would
Correct.
potentially not affect our nitrate levels.
That's correct.
Okay. The other question I have is, we are in a pretty dire strait for long-term housing in this area. And I think that's a great idea that you're going to separate and have a long-term to help fulfill those needs, and then a short-term. I guess what can you assure us that your short-term won't turn into long-term, and then it'll just be a long-term area out there? Because I really think there's a need for the short-term, bringing the people into the town and having them stay a few days and moving on. But I guess that would be one of my concerns, is that it all turns into a long-term, which would help our long-term people, but wouldn't help our
Yeah.
short-term people.
I guess I can't give you a guarantee.
Yeah.
Okay. I can cite economics.
Yeah.
Okay. And if one, and of course I'm financially driven. I run a lot of pro formas. And the model right now is long-term. If it generates $1, short-term's a 3x. So it's actually better for me to build short-term.
Right.
I get $3, 3x on the same short-term as I would a long-term. That's the reality of it.
And that's
If they're all full.
Excuse me?
If they're all full every night, which,
Well, your long-term's full every night. Your
Right.
short-term's full from around April to October 1st. And that's built into my model, so I know the economics of running an RV park here.
well, that's great. Good news. So would that be any indication that you like Winnemucca? Maybe you would be game for other projects around?
Yes.
Perfect.
We have a couple other sections of ground that we'd like to do some work on. The high level, the very 30,000 foot level approach to this, and I did have some pushback early on, but as I talked through it with various people at the county, I found that I was getting support, and I was getting support from NDEP, was taking the 640, and rather than do 5-acre parcels, which I can get 128 out of, just 5 times 128, 640. But when you do that, you end up having 128 wells and 128 septic systems. So it's not been done before. What I am exploring is an engineered system where I can cluster 128 in a location, centrally located, and then use the balance of the property, which is, a little over 400 acres. That would be open space, and I dedicate that into perpetuity to be used by not just the people that are living there, but the people in the community. It's the same philosophy we took that we're taking right now in Reno. We've accumulated, I think I told you, 4,000 acres. And I told my partner right out of the chute, I said, we're going to do this, but we're going to take about 2,000 of those acres and turn them into an open space park. It'll be programmed for horses and bike riding and OHVs and ATVs. It'll be just exactly what the people are using it for today, but it'll be programmed. It'll be safer. It'll be better. And that's what I'd like to do here on that 640 that I just talked to you about. But I'm just taking baby steps right now, trying to get myself known in the community, get ourselves known, do a good job, and then do some other things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I answered your questions. If you have anything else, please ask me or call me. I'm only 6 hours away.
So leave your, yeah, right. If it snows.
On a certain day, right?
Oh,
It'll be clear on your way home.
well, yeah, I hope so.
Keep us in the loop,
Thank
what
you.
you're going to do.
Thank you.
I hope it's clear too, because I got to go that way too. So it'll be.
Well, maybe. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for waiting
Thanks,
for us.
Dean.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item 17. Is that correct?
Correct.
Hey, this is, item 17 is the Humboldt County Shooting Park Environmental Assessment Letter. Consideration, discussion, possible approval of a letter of commitment and support regarding the Bureau of Land Management Draft Environmental Assessment, EA, that is evaluating application N-98-541 for conveying a recreational and public purpose lease, RP&P, by patent for the Humboldt County Shooting Park. The additional 24 acres will allow the park to create a 1,000-yard rifle range and provide a buffer between the park and the public and private lands. Are you guys familiar with what that is? I'm thinking everybody's pretty much been up there and knows that. So,
Yep.
This is just an RP&P. This is,
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I would also say that in the agenda, you'll notice there was a couple other letters that came from individuals in the community supporting this environmental assessment by the BLM.
right.
I think the shooting park also did the same thing, the committee or board up there. So we've got several people. We've made an effort, especially through the shooting park, to get the word out that every letter counts, individual groups, whatever it might be. So I think they've heard from quite a few people. So
These letters came to you, Dave? Or
What-
they just,
what's that?
These letters came in to you?
yeah, they sent them to us. We just put them on the agenda just so that people could see other people are interested in this.
Have we had any letters of opposition to it?
I haven't seen any.
Initially, the whole idea behind it was a safety buffer behind the 400-yard range, because that was a piece of public land right there that cows and people and ATVs are accessing it. And, with acquisition of that piece of ground, that section of land that's on the other side of that, it creates 1,000-yard. Once we tie this piece up, it creates 1,000-yard rifle range, which is a big deal. There's a lot of long-range people out there that really look forward to that. I mean, Washoe County doesn't even have a 400 or 1,000-yard rifle range. So,
Palomino Valley, though. Right?
well, it's out there. It's out just, it'd be just south of Palomino Valley, but they charge people to get in the gate, and it's a 250-yard range. That's all it is. So what we have up here is quite a bit more sophisticated.
I think it would be a great deal.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Mr. Chair, I'm curious, did anyone else receive a letter from BLM telling them that the comment period was open on this?
I didn't receive one.
I did.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
I did
why.
Through the rack.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know why I got one, but I did. And just stating that the comment period was open if I was interested.
I think I got an email, whether it was forwarded from
I got
Dave
something
or
from Dave,
somebody.
yeah.
Yeah, from Dave, I think.
Yeah, and also Commissioner Haas has been involved in quite a bit with this, and he took a bunch of copies, I think, up to their board meeting a few weeks ago.
I just took one over and they.
Oh, it took-
mailed them to
They made a
us.
bunch of copies. I know they can't make copies, so.
But,
Yeah.
they are very much in favor of it. Shooting range, we have a jewel up on that mountain. That's all I can say about it. These guys have worked themselves over a many-year period, and they've done a great job, for the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
And this will give us a little better buffer out there, and it will give us 1,000-yard range. Now, the public's not going to go down to the targets. There'll be gongs and stuff because we don't want them down there.
Right.
That for a safety factor, you don't want a bunch of the public going down there with their vehicles and different stuff. So it's not, that part of it won't be open to the public,
Yeah.
but they can use it.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Great idea. Okay, we have anybody interested in a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the letter, Bureau of Land Management in support of the Humboldt County Shooting Park.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, a discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Right?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, item 18. Request to approve a request to approve letter requesting assistance to upgrade US 95 and Service Road 293. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a letter in support of Nevada Department of Transportation to request assistance to make traveling US 95 and SR 293 safe roads for all travelers. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll just start and just say that obviously 2 weeks ago, we brought to you the concerned citizens of Orovada, along with Lithium Nevada, and then the commission joined in on that letter. And that has been sent off to the governor's office, also our congressional delegates. And also, we sent a copy off to Christina Swallow, who's the director of Department of Transportation. Hence, I've had a short, brief conversation with Christina, and she has set up a meeting with me. I think it's later this week. And so we'll be talking about that. If you, Mr. Chair, or Commissioner Cherry, one of you want to join me, that's probably a good idea. It gives us an opportunity to pick our brain a little bit on a couple fronts, not just this in general, but Interstate 11 as a whole. And so that'll be a great opportunity. But in the meantime, Commissioner Haas made the recommendation that we bring it back to the board, and a letter directly from the Board of County Commissioners come out to those same entities. And so what I did is I put something together for you here to consider, and please edit it as you see necessary.
Okay. Everybody had a chance to see the letter? Have any questions or corrections you'd like to make?
Yes, I have some questions. And this is the February 22nd, 2022, Dave, to Christina Swallow.
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
The letter I have a copy of.
It's dated February
I couldn't
22nd.
call it up on a computer. I had to come
Yeah.
get it.
Yep.
So the discussion we had before the letter was voted on to go to, with the lithium mine project and Orovada in it, was a discussion on my part anyway, of having it support the Humboldt County. I don't see in this letter why we have to have anything having to do with lithium mine or Orovada or anything, since we have already sent a letter for us. And this was simply to back our own people, for, like you'd mentioned, from Idaho all the way through Nevada. And that's what I had in mind when I mentioned this.
Okay.
Not to, say anything about the lithium mine or the Orovada, because they'd already done it on their own. And I think it would carry a lot more weight with our constituents, for one thing, and it'd carry a lot more weight toward the state to do that. And then your idea of asking questions about I-11 or whatever they're going to call it is a good one, because that road out there is dangerous. I mean, really, really dangerous.
Sure.
As I'm sure that Commissioner Cherry can tell you, since he travels it every day.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't disagree with you. I just, again, it's one of those things, we're talking about a road that's going to be impacted by a mine. It's already bad. I think that was the point we were trying to make at the last meeting, and that I think you made a good point to some of the folks from NDOT that were on the line. And then later that week, we did have our annual NDOT meeting with them about what our priorities were. And Commissioner Cherry was at that meeting, and I think they got it. We pounded on them about the fact that while there's been projects on the list for 4 or 5 years, even without a mine, they haven't done as much as they could have done. I mean, the things they did do, we were happy about, and we thanked them. But we also wanted to make the point that there's much more that needs to be done. And especially, again, to your point, today, no matter with a new mine coming. But I would say, to just counter your point, that a new mine coming in is going to add, we know for sure, 150 trucks a day, not to mention all the construction vehicles back and forth and all the kind of things over that period. So it's going to have a major impact. So I think that, again, I think that adds to the story and provides greater, I guess, support for the fact they need to do something sooner rather than later. Just my thought. But again, this is the commission's letter, and whatever you want, we'll change it. So.
You know, I get Commissioner Haas's point. You know, we already did hitch onto that wagon with regard to the last letter, but and I'm wondering, rather than listing in the context of the letter, this letter, I'm wondering if we don't talk about by name lithium, because if you think about it, we have the lithium project, we have the gold project that's in 3 Mile Canyon that is pending right now, 3 Mile, 8 Mile Canyon. We've got enterprises that are active on the reservation above there, and all of those uses of 95 are all make our case stronger. And I think maybe we list as in general as uses, not by name, but in general, mining, construction, and you know, even the enterprises that are being proposed in McDermott and whatnot. That might go to both what we're trying to do here. I know what Dave's thoughts were having to do with trying to just make our case stronger, and I get Commissioner Haas's point as well. And I'm wondering if that is a way we want to go on it, or whether that's just me thinking out loud.
We voted on the letter, we sent it out, and I got my ass chewed on really, really well by the State Department that is right here in Winnemucca that we bypassed. So I don't want to see it done again. You know, and we're working for the constituents of Humboldt County. And, you know, there is a possibility that all of this other stuff will happen, but that's not what we want to base it on. Because if they do happen, we need it. If they don't happen, we still need it, and we need it today. So I would rather go myself with the constituents of Humboldt County and tell them, Governor, we need this done. We need it done now because of our safety. And then whatever comes on after that, then we'll deal with it.
Mr. Chair, so to Commissioner Haas, so at the NDOT meeting that we had 2 weeks ago after that commission meeting, that was one of the things they voiced to us to your point, is why did you go to the governor and that? And they said there's a better way of doing it, which was to go directly to Christina Swallow and her leadership team. Never heard of this team before. It's the first that we've ever heard of it. And we told them that, and they said, well, that's our fault. You should have known that. And the best way to get action on this is to go through her and her leadership team. So that's why you notice that the letter is directed to Christina Swallow.
Yes, and I think you're on the right track there, but I still think it needs to come from Humboldt County.
Yeah, and nobody's doubting that. I'm just saying that's why we decided this letter would go to her and her leadership group.
Mr. Chair, to that point, and I heard her as well, that rang hollow to me. We have been talking to the state for 7 years to no avail. They have been deaf to what we've said. So that's why we took that extra step, and I don't apologize for it, really. Yeah. But this letter, we decided to take, or David and I talked about it, we decided, let's just follow the recommendations and go through the director, and she can work with staff. And I expect it to get, had we not put the additional pressure, I don't know that it would have been any different than it's been for the last 8 years. And to the other part about not mentioning lithium, there's one part, Commissioner Haas, that in this letter that I think really needs to be said, and Dave said it well in this letter, is that the community up there is being asked to bear the burden of this mine that the state, the feds, the county, everybody wants. So, and it is lithium. I mean, so it has to be mentioned, but we're asked to to bear that burden to put this mine out. And, you know, and we feel like in some ways we're asking to sacrifice that community to get this mine, which is needed for batteries and all these other things. Well, if we're willing to do that, but help us navigate this and try to keep that community as whole as we possibly can.
Let's mitigate the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such an important part of this letter. And it has to be said, I think.
You know, and you could actually extend that all the way up the road to McDermott as well. The folks from McDermott itself. Everybody is impacted by this.
Well, and it was brought out at that meeting. It's not just about the community. I mean, it is and it isn't. Everybody that uses 95 will be impacted with this, whether you live in McDermott, Paradise, Denial. If you're just going to Boise, Idaho, using 95, you're going to be impacted. It's a lot broader than that. But, you know, it is, I think it's important to say that, okay, the community is here now. What are you going to do to help us get through this and be able to, you know, rather than sacrificing us, help us out, get through this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we have to make our case that it's not just we'd like to have it. It's we need to have it.
We need that.
It needs to happen. On the other side of that, the heat you took, Commissioner Haas and Cherry at the meeting, I think you're being kind in your words that rings hollow, because how many times have they sat in front of us? I'm trying to remember the liaison, the NDOT liaison back to their director, who's been right there and taken notes in terms of what we've been asking for. And the notion that we put together a strongly written letter and fired off to the governor's office and to our representatives out there just because it hasn't made it there yet. I'm sorry. They wear that heat too. They brought it on themselves. Maybe she didn't bring it on herself, but the bottom line is the agency did. Sure as heck did. And
She made the statement, well, you know, we would have liked to known about this before we'd have liked to known these problems before you send it to the governor. And I go, I can't believe that.
How do you miss them?
You obviously weren't listening for the last 8 years. So.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if it would even belong in the letter, but you talk about the community of Orvada bearing the brunt of it. Orvada's an agriculture community. This mine that's being proposed that's going to cause the extra traffic doesn't do anything of gain for the Orvada community itself. Somebody might have a piece of property they can put a RV park or something in, but it's an agriculture community. So it is a big burden that's put on Orvada. And you have those trucks, those extra trucks. Maybe if you didn't want to mention the mine, you should at least mention the extra traffic that will be coming because of new business ventures in the area. And you got 3 or 4 trucks a day going to be going out with West Coast salmon. You just talked about it, McDermott there at the reservation. And you've got a lot of people going back between California and Idaho now.
Yeah.
A ton of people.
Yeah. And we're not talking at all about Kings River. Those folks in Kings River and all the hay trucks are going to use the state route as well. I think we're just kind of elaborating on what you were trying to say.
Let me clarify something. I mentioned Orvada because they were here and asked us to help them with a letter. Every community out there, including Nevada, or Orvada, I'm sorry. I don't mean that I want to not include Orvada in this, because everybody on 95 is going to get impacted, and it already is being impacted. So don't get me wrong. Orvada is one of our communities, and it's a very good community up there. And I'm very concerned about the Orvada community being impacted by a whole lot more than just that road.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be looked at now, you know, and done now.
Commissioners, can we make sure we speak into the mics so that the public can hear us?
Good idea.
Getting closer to the lunch.
Yeah. I can
That's
smell
what she
french
asked,
fries.
is whether you guys were on lunch break and just was.
Yeah. Well, I think we're on the same page here. You know, I understand your concerns, Commissioner, and I get Ron's position as well. And I think, but we're all the end game here is I think it's just semantics. We're trying to get the same thing done here. So I would be interested in a motion to get this letter going and then have, you know, maybe have the draft copy of this letter with some of the changes you would like to see in it made available to us, and then we can get right back on our any edits we might have and get this letter out on the road. What do you think?
Yeah, this Commissioner Hill, I think what Commissioner Haas had said earlier, mine or no mine, or enterprise or no enterprise, or construction or no construction, that the issue's still out there.
Yeah.
We still have an issue. I think it's just a matter of, wording and do we want to use that verbiage in our letter, whether it be a power play or what, but to use the mine as leverage or not. Again, like I kind of stated last time, maybe in this letter, we just remain neutral and realize that our community of Orvada needs help, mine or no mine. Like I said, we can support it that way.
Yeah.
And what needed to be said about the impacts of the mining and different stuff, I think was already covered in that first letter. But, in this letter, we remain a neutral board and say, look, we know there's an issue out there, Orvat has an issue, regardless if the mine comes in or not, or we still have an issue to address out there. So,
Yeah, and I don't see this letter at all saying we either support it or don't support it.
Mm-mm.
It's about traffic. It's not about.
It is,
supporting.
yeah.
Not about an endorsement.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Okay. Gotta,
I'll make a motion to approve a letter requesting assistance to upgrade US 95 and the service road of 293.
we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on it? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I am opposed by how it's written. I don't have a problem in changing it.
Okay. Okay.
Needs to be done, but not this one.
Okay, I would, we have the motion carries as, with the vote, and I would just state for the record that Commissioner Haas is a nay, but I would also like just point out to you, Commissioner, that you're surely, if I was sitting in your place and where you're at with your suggestions and whatnot, I'd get with him and see if what you
You
can
do what now?
I'd get with the author of the letter and see what you can include in it. So,
You just passed the letter as written.
Yeah, we can't, unless we bring it back. So
Excuse me?
I said, unless we bring it back.
Yeah, but we just.
Right.
You just passed the letter as written.
Right.
So, one question I do have, Mike. This has got my name on it. Okay, can I have that removed?
It's the board. You're on the board and it's an action of the board. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Now, I may throw out there, I don't, if you are interested in sending a letter yourself and indicate you're one of the commissioners and that this is your feeling from a standpoint of the constituency, based on your position or opinion, I'm perfectly fine with that. And this board can't control what you do individually as well. And to give a different perspective, or if you feel strongly about it and want to get that out there, I think that's an opportunity for you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 19. Miscellaneous reports and correspondence. I guess I'll go through some of the information, miscellaneous information. For the record, on March 7th is the next Humboldt County Commission meeting. March 8th is the Winnemucca City Council meeting. March 10th is the Regional Planning Commission meeting. And March 14th is the Regional Airport Board meeting. Item 2 is reports from the commissioners regarding the boards and committees they serve on. Commissioner Hill?
It's Commissioner Hill. I don't have any new updates for you. Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Haas?
This is Commissioner Haas. I had a museum board meeting on 2/8/22. We discussed future plans for this year, mainly got ourselves caught up for the start of this year. 2/11, I was in Central Nevada Water Authority meeting in Fallon. A lot of discussion of the existing drought. As I said earlier, with the exception of this snow that hit the other day, they haven't had any precipitation down there in Fallon. There was a lot of discussion about how much water the lithium mining is using or is requiring and how much more is going on down there. There was discussion on Supreme Court on the water laws and judges. Quite a discussion on that one, and there'll be an ongoing thing until we get that squared around. I had an airport board meeting on the 14th. And again, we were planning for the spring startup of the construction out there at the airport mainly. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Commissioner?
I had a presentation training for the hospital on February 9th. Other than that, I didn't have anything. I have a hospital board meeting tonight.
Okay.
I'll report a little bit more on the meeting we had with NDOT. Dave and I city was here. Dave and I, Don Kalkowski, a couple of people from the Highway Patrol. I don't know, there's probably 15 or so of us in that meeting. They called or I guess it's called a workshop. I don't know if this is the way they're going to go forward with these. They used to meet with the whole commission. I don't know if they're going to change that, now.
I think they'll come back and give a presentation to the entire commission, yeah.
Okay. We went over some of the priorities, and the number one priority that we have and have had for a number of years is US 95 passing lane installations. The number two is US 95 safety improvements, which is like through the town of Orovada, flashing lights, crosswalks, that sort of stuff. Number three is US 95 again, Jungle Road intersection. Number four would be the Highland Hanson Water Canyon intersection. Number five has been completed. That's the turn lane they put in McDermott, that where the service station was, and then the service station burned down. Drainage improvements on Grass Valley Road. 140 surface improvements. That's Bottle Creek to Leonard Creek. That road really needs some help. Grass Valley Road restriping at Hanson Road. Exit to Winnemucca Airport off of I-80. Construction of Highland Bypass with by the potato farm. You know how we've been talking a lot about another crossing like at Walmart or something if you want to go from Grass Valley. They pretty much said that that's just almost impossible to get done anymore because the railroad won't give the right-of-ways to do it anymore. Unless if you give one up, they'll give you another one, but they won't give you a new one. Construction new roadway from mile marker 43 to
Underneath.
North Jungle Road. Construction frontage road on 95. construct a frontage road on 95. Rose Creek Bridge. That Rose Creek Bridge is still something that we're gonna have to take care of at some point. And bridge repair off of bridge on tribal lands. No, Bridge Street repairs. Oh, that's one in McDermott. They have a railroad car that just goes across the Quinn River right there, and it's not sufficient. When it floods, it almost washes it out. So they're gonna look at something there. And then, like I said, they weren't happy because we sent the letter to the governor. I think it's, I'm not worried about ruffling their feathers because we've been talking to them for so long with no action. So if we had to take another route, explained it to them. Dave talked to the directors at Swallow, and hopefully that smoothed her over. Trying to think, was there anything else in there that was real important?
That was the
Was
big
there
issue.
any mention there of the money that they got through the CARES Act to repair highways and bridges in the state?
They made mention of it, but they didn't give us any detail on how that's been utilized. So, but they did make mention that they did receive some funding, but their point was, even if it's, $500 million, you can spend that on 2 projects.
Yeah.
Was their basic which is true. So.
Yeah, and the report shows how much they spent in Humboldt County, and it's been a considerable amount. And it's going in the future, it's going to be, what, $57 million or something is what they have and are going to be spending in Humboldt County over the next, I don't remember now. I hate to say it because it'll be wrong, 5 years, 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot of projects, but it's very clear that they feel the need, and it probably is in the big areas like Las Vegas. It's growing so fast. There isn't enough money to even take care of what's going on in Las Vegas, let alone worry about what's happening in rural Nevada. So they have to, it isn't they don't care, but they have to be real careful with that pot of money. I would call it small, but that pot of money, it only goes so far. So have to be really selective in where those dollars are spent. My other meeting was WCVA. WCVA has about $4.5 million in the bank. The revenues, tax collections for room taxes continues to go up every month. Maybe not quite as significant as it was in 21, but 22 is still turning out to be very good. Like last month was 40,000 more than the year before. So we're doing good. In July and June of last year, that 1 month we were 164,000 over the year before. So helping us out a lot, because the county gets 2% of that, 12%. So it's helping. That's it, I guess.
I'll just be brief on mine. I've had several meetings on Nevada Works Strategic Planning Retreat that I reported that it's going to attend. We came up with trying to shift gears away from more traditional training for people, either dislocated workers or at-risk kids, and not recognizing, it used to be the emphasis was toward post-secondary formal schooling, send them to college or send them to a community college, or those kinds of programs were pretty prevalent, especially coming out of university and the community college system. We tried to shift gears away from that, trying to get it more VOTEC type emphasis to it, recognizing we've got about 60% of the graduates coming out of school right now in these rural communities, especially, which have no intention of going to university level education. And And, but recognizing that those people still need to, we need to give them an opportunity to reach out and try to come up with some training that, that, that is relevant to them, whether it be in the construction trades or whether it be truck driving. I mean, just trying to get those folks, we don't touch them right now, I guess is the point. We touch the ones that are going to go to prison. We touch the ones that are just recently lost their job. We touch those that are looking for some sort of post-secondary training, such as a community college-based education or even university-based. And we don't touch those kids which is the vast majority, in my view, that are looking for some other type of VOTEC type education. And that was kind of how we were structuring this, trying to utilize the existing law out of Congress to get those dollars and to place them into Section 8, or excuse me, Section 2, 3, and 4 of that act, and try to get that money out there. So that was what that was about. Spent 2 days doing that. Attended virtually a SLUPAC meeting, State Land Use Planning Advisory Commission. We're still talking very seriously about how we're going to implement the federal law or the state implemented legislation which allows for state ACECs, areas of critical environmental concern. And I didn't even know that process existed. That's always been a federal designation, and now the state's recognizing those as well, kind of like what California does. And I wanted to make sure that as we move down that road for ACEC designation and who does it and how you administer them, that the state fully understands that each time you implement an ACEC, you have to implement a protocol to take care of it. You can't just say that 100,000 acres up there is an ACEC. Now you've got to have a robust plan as to how you're going to benefit. So at any rate, that is the vast majority of the work that's going into that right now through SLUPAC. And then I attended the board of directors meeting for Nevada Works on Friday, and we elected officers and whatnot for SLUPAC, or excuse me, for Nevada Works at that. We did an overview of some of the strategic plan for those people that didn't go. And then just let you know, I've got this week, I have the interviews for the public land manager's position for NACO board of directors. I'll be involved in that on the 23rd. I'll have the public land steering committee in Carson City on the 24th. And I'll have the board of directors meeting and a formal NACO public lands meeting in the morning at 8 o'clock on the 25th. And that's all I have for right now. So, future agenda items. Anybody have any ideas on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've got two that came out of today's meeting. We'll bring back the WCVA request for the slurry seal, and that I did get a message from Kim Peterson that the company providing that quote has guaranteed it through March 7th for our meeting. So I'll put it on the March 7th meeting. So we don't in any danger of losing that price. So also continuation of the public hearing that we heard today. And I'll be working with Levi Carl to see if we can get some kind of a written proposal for when the demolition, because I was going to mention it today in the meeting, but as far as what they're going to rebuild and when they're going to rebuild really has no bearing on this commission. It's the nuisance is the burned out building. And once they demolish it, that's all we need to know and get a date. So I tried to make that impression on Mr. Sakurada, and I talked to Levi. Well, we were going back and forth during the meeting and just say, what they need to understand is the demolition is the key here. This thing goes away. When you rebuild is your business, not ours. So hopefully that'll help. So,
Yeah.
I also gave him the information of the Impact Demolition as the company that we've used in the past. So hopefully that'll help him. That's the only two that I have.
Okay. Any commissioners have any future agenda items you'd like to see? Okay. At this time, we'll go to item 21, which is public comment. Any additional public comment online or in the room? Not seeing any additional public comment. We're going to adjourn this meeting. Break for lunch.
So, Mr. Chair, just want to give you guys an update. So we do have our budget training with Mr. Alan Colt from Pool Pact. So lunch is ready. It's from the Martin Hotel. Enjoy. And I'll check with Gina here to find out if Alan is here. And probably maybe what we want to do is go ahead and get started with lunch. And if Alan's ready to go, we'll start the process. And while you're still eating, or we can just take 15, 20 minutes and eat, and then we'll start, whatever you want to do.
Well, if Mr. Colt's here, let's go ahead and get him started.
Okay, I'll find out.
Looks like there's plenty to eat here, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, if you want to join us.
Thank you.
Hey, Emma, if you want to let me know when you've got that recording stopped, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.